Hello, ABMP podcast listeners. It's Kristen, ABMP's Director of Professional Education, inviting you to join us at the ABMP CE Summit Post-Op on Tuesday, November 4th. This online event, including 3 hours of CE, is free for everyone in the profession and features courses from incredible instructors Rachelle Clauson, Doug Nelson, Nicole Trombley, and Devonna Willis. Learn scar tissue, formation and impact, and lymphatic drainage massage and hands-on techniques for post-operative clients. Register today at abmp.com/summit. See you online.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the ABMP podcast, a podcast where we speak with the massage and bodywork profession. I'm Rachelle Clauson.
And I'm Nicole Trombley. Rachelle and I are longtime massage therapists, and we write the Anatomy for Touch column for Massage and Bodywork magazine.
And when we aren't writing or massaging, we're busy studying in the dissection lab and teaching. We are the co-directors of AnatomySCAPES, a continuing education company for hands-on professionals.
Rachelle, I'm so excited to be heading back to the dissection lab this coming week.
That's right. We're teaching 2 in-person dissection courses this month. First up, Journey into the Matrix, the Fascial System. We created this foundational course for massage therapists to understand the anatomy of the fascial system. Personally, I feel like this course should be taught before we learn the anatomy of bones and muscles.
You can make a good case for that. It actually sets up the framework that explains what we touch. The textures, the densities, what each part of the body does and feels like is defined by the fascial system.
Right? It also teaches us about movement and injuries and largely about pain.
So fundamental.
It's our in-depth exploration of the structures and organization of the fascial system. We designed this course for visual and kinesthetic learners.
Isn't that all of us massage therapists?
I think so. We teach it in 3 parts with the visual slide decks and 3D model making in the classroom, observing live dissection and lots of palpation in the dissection lab, and then we bring it home by coming back to our own bodies and to the massage tables. This is a completely unique approach to learning the fascial system.
And then we're also teaching our more advanced course, the 4-day Dissection Lab Intensive, where we teach you the art and science of learning anatomy through dissection on an unpreserved human whole body donor.
Our October class is full, but if you're interested in learning with us, please click on the link in the show notes to find out how to get on our waiting list for our next lab workshops. Speaking of the matrix, today we're going to talk about an element of the fascial system, or you could call it the fascial matrix.
So today we're talking all things collagen and why learning more about the 3-dimensional body-wide collagen matrix can help us better understand the tissues under our hands and the work we're doing as massage therapists. So Rachelle, I hear this all the time. We're losing our collagen as we age. We're worried about our collagen. We're pumping it into our smoothies. We're stirring it into our morning coffee, slathering it onto our skin.
Right? But are we really losing our collagen? Not exactly. This may be true in part for our skin, but for the other tissues, we actually are gaining collagen as we age. Because the truth is, collagen is everywhere in the body. There may be 30 trillion cells or so in the human body, but these cells are held together in a 3-dimensional body-wide matrix of collagen, which is a part of the fascial system. But let's zoom in on collagen today, because collagen truly is the single most important structural molecule of the human body.
Bold statement, but it's true.
So let's go through kind of the what, where, why, how of collagen, shall we? Let's start with what is collagen? Other than the stuff that we're putting in our coffee, as you already described, can you take us into the story of what collagen is and how we can relate to it in the bigger picture of biological sciences?
Absolutely. The most important thing to know about collagen is it's a protein. And collagen is a fiber, and we use it to build our bodies. But humans are not the only organism on this planet to create our body out of fibers. Every living organism does, from trees to insects to mushrooms. Lobsters do it. There's different types of fibers existing out there in the biological world. And there's a couple major ones. The first one, cellulose. So all of the plant kingdom, trees, they build their bodies out of cellulose. Cellulose is the fiber in our food, right?
So when we talk about I need to get more fiber in my diet, what fiber am I talking about?
Yeah, it's the cellulose that's the component of our plants. Chitin is another major fiber. Most of us haven't heard of this one. Chitin exists in creatures like insects, lobsters, and other crustaceans.
Fascinating. So what part of the lobster is chitin?
It's exoskeleton. So all of the crunchy outer shell of a lobster is made of chitin. Mushrooms' bodies are made out of chitin. It's a really important structural fiber.
Interesting. Okay, so that's the first two of the big three. Is there a third one that we're talking about today?
I know. Yeah. This third one is collagen. Collagen is so important to the animal kingdom that it is the most abundant animal protein on the planet.
Wait a minute. I thought muscle tissue would be the most abundant protein.
I know, right? Actin and myosin, but all of those muscle cells are embedded within a collagen matrix. There is more collagen than there is muscle fiber.
That's amazing. Can we talk a little bit about word origin? Like, what is the word collagen? Where does that word come from?
Collagen comes from the Greek word for glue. Not sure exactly how it's pronounced, but something like colli. In fact, the French-Italian word for glue is still based on that and has that col or colla in it. Historically, glue was actually made from animal bodies. And so sometimes we've heard that expression, this horse is going off to the glue factory. That's where that comes from.
So collagen is something that we've known about for a really long time. This is not something new, even though I'm seeing it now on the shelves as a new supplement. We've known about collagen. We understand what collagen is for a long time. But let's talk about where collagen is located in the human body. So starting with the cells. I've heard that every cell is surrounded by collagen. How does that work?
Essentially, that's true. Every cell, every muscle cell, every fat cell, even our skin cells, in some form or another are surrounded by collagen fibers. Collagen is the glue that's holding our cells together.
That's really makes it make sense now. Maybe they knew what they were doing when they named it collagen, right?
No, exactly.
Well, and fascinatingly, our dermis, not your epidermis, but your dermis is mostly collagen. And moving beyond the dermis, let's go into below the surface. What about in our fat? We just said that fat is actually fully formed in framework of collagen. We talk about it as a honeycomb structure or like bubble wrap. That wrapping is all collagen as well. Now, it's really interesting because we can even just talk about the organs for a second here. The scaffolding of our organs, including our liver, our spleen, our kidney, our lungs, they are all also full of collagen. I wonder if we could even talk about just a moment here of a piece of pathology when it comes to fibrosis of these different organs.
Yeah, these organs, they're completely scaffolded in collagen. So when you think about an individual organ like a liver that has liver cells, all of them are held together in a liver-shaped matrix of collagen. And when there is inflammation in the body, the collagen-making cells are on alert. And one of the ways that they respond to inflammation is by creating more collagen. And so fibrosis within our organs is very much an augmentation of the collagen matrix that is already existing there, but as a response to injury or inflammation.
And not necessarily a very good one in this case, right? COPD, there's other inflammatory responses of the human body that create fibrosis in the organs that is really not good for us. So collagen of and by itself is neither a good thing nor a bad thing, right? Has a lot to do with where it is and whether it's working in its most functional manner. What about tendons and ligaments?
Yeah, collagen.
Almost 100%, right?
Those are almost 100% collagen.
So, and bones?
I know, right? This is surprising to us sometimes, but our bones, which we think of them, what do we think of them as? Calcium and whatnot, are a matrix of collagen that has been mineralized. And then other surprising places in the body, the cornea of the eye is primarily collagen, so that everything that we see is filtered through the eye's cornea, which the collagen is woven so precisely in the cornea to make it translucent.
Fascinating. Now, we've seen a lot of collagen in the dissection lab because it's very visible at the naked eye, depending on what structure it is that you're looking at in the macro view. And we see it typically presenting as white. But collagen doesn't live by itself. It lives near hyaluronan and water, so it has a lot of glisten to it as well. It can become luminescent and almost rainbow patterns that you'll see in collagen, which is pretty cool, but amazing that in a different organization, it's actually transparent.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, there's more than one type of collagen, and almost all of them we have in our body. There's about 28 to 29 different recognized types of collagen.
That's a lot of collagen.
It's a lot of different types of collagen. And we have over 40 genes in our DNA, humans do, that code for collagen. And that's important to note because that's built-in redundancy. So if something goes wrong with one gene, we've got enough genetic coding that there's a backup plan. Because collagen is that important to our bodies.
Yeah, well, as we're talking about, it seems like it's sort of the framework of just about everything. So of these types of collagen, good news, there's really 3 types of collagen that are the most prevalent. Collagen type 1 is the most prevalent. And they discovered it first, they named it type 1, and it still is the one that is the most prominent. This is the strong fiber that makes your tendons and makes your ligaments. It's a part of the force transmitting system, so it plays a big role in the muscle system and in making your body have the capacity to move.
Yeah, when we're talking about collagen, most of us in our general day-to-day conversation, that's the collagen we're referencing.
Now, there's another more delicate type of collagen that has a relationship with the muscles. It's collagen type 3, so we're skipping. Collagen type 3 is a little bit more wispy. It's a finer kind of thread, you could say, compared to its counterpoint of collagen type 1. We find this in the endomysium of muscles, and it also creates that initial scaffolding when we're forming scars. Early scar tissue has a lot of collagen type 3 as it's initially starting to lay down the framework of how to heal and pull a wound together. So also spongy tissues like lung and spleen, those are also collagen type 3. This has to do with the weave and the organization that gives it that kind of flexibility. Okay, going back, collagen type 2, I skipped it.
Yeah, doubling back to collagen type 2, it's also a very strong collagen, but it's organized a little bit differently. This is the collagen that makes our cartilage in our joints. And so instead of being built in the way that we need it for a tendon, it's built to take compressive load so that when you're walking or jumping, that your joints, that collagen can take that compressive load. That one we hear about a lot too is, and we're worried about, if we want to talk about being worried about collagen, we are worried about our type 2 in our joints. Absolutely.
Oftentimes. All right, so we've talked a little bit about what collagen is, where collagen is found. Now let's jump into why collagen? Like, why would the body be made out of collagen so much? What's the big deal?
I personally think it's a great choice for humans. Collagen has very specific characteristics that make it such a great choice for human bodies that are walking, moving, carrying heavy things, and even just sitting in our chairs slouching. Collagen does the work that humans need it to do.
First of all, collagen is strong, and it's also incredibly lightweight for its strength. The tensile strength of collagen has been compared to the strength of
steel, right?
Yeah. And that's crazy because the difference between steel and collagen is pretty obvious. Collagen is very flexible and light, whereas steel is so stiff and so heavy. But when you're measuring at a molecular level,
I think it's on the nanoscale, yeah, fiber by fiber comparison.
It's actually stronger. But it's also, that's important because collagen has a lot to do, like I was just saying, with force transmission. So when your muscles contract, in order for them to produce movement, they have to be able to be tethered to something else with some level of strength, especially if you're doing jumping or running, things where everything's being loaded pretty firmly. You've got to have something really strong to make sure that your muscles stay connected to your bones. And that force transmission capacity with all of that tensile strength comes from collagen.
Collagen is also really versatile. So when we talk about collagen like a fiber, we can actually compare it a little bit to kind of textile fabrics. And you think about weaving wool or cotton to make fabric that makes our clothing. And collagen is different, but not so different because the density of the fibers, how densely packed they are, or the orientation of that fiber can be changed. The body can modify that to create different collagen fabrics, and that's going to help us do different things. So Examples, the skin's dermis. Those collagen fibers are woven together more like a basket weave. They're really irregular. They go in different directions. And this really allows the skin to be tough and stretch and return back to its original shape. Thank goodness. At least for most of our lives, it does. Maybe when we get older, that gets a little more challenged. But then there's other tissues like loose connective tissue that we find maybe between two muscles so they can slide against each other. That's going to be a much more loose organization, like almost gauzy if you want to talk about fabrics, right? And then other things like the IT band, you're going to have a much, much denser concentration of fibers and orientation of fibers. So if you think about your gluteus maximus contracting and pulling on that IT band, that constant contraction of your glute max is going to be pulling on that fascia, and the fibers are going to line up all in parallel to help transmit that force.
It's so smart, right? And that dense connective tissue also has a lot to do with collagen's efficiency in the body. Efficiency meaning not burning a lot of calories, but still getting a lot of work done. There's a concept called elastic recoil that is applied to collagen because of how it's organized within itself and throughout the body. This comes into play when we're doing things like running or jumping or repetitive tasks that have momentum to them. In order to move something, usually we have to contract our muscles, which is metabolically expensive. We actually have to burn calories. And that's what we hope to do when we're working out in the gym. It's part of why we go to the gym, but just in daily life, being efficient as an organism is highly important. And that efficiency is provided by having these non-metabolically consuming structures that within their natural organization provide a kind of energy storage capacity. Think of it like an elastic rubber band or slingshot. Do we still have those? Kids, when I was little, they had slingshots, and we'd be launching things across the room by strapping a rubber band onto a stick and pulling it back. Well, the loading of the tissue in our bodies happens through gravity and also through the muscles contracting or holding steady. As you land, you're stretching those collagen fibers, and then they give that kinetic energy right back again. So you can kind of bounce forever. I don't know if you've ever noticed how tired you might get if you're just walking or if you're walking upstairs, how much effort it is. But if you sort of put a little hop in your step and you sort of bounce along, it's actually a lot easier. That's partly because you're accessing the collagen matrix and its capacity to give that energy back without having to burn that much energy to make you go.
I'm going to try that.
Call it the Fred Astaire style, walking up the stairs. Try it. Your friends will like it.
The collagen matrix is also adaptable. What this means is that the body can custom build each of our individual collagen matrices based on what we're doing in our lives, our movement patterns, our postural patterns. And this is so important because unlike the fibers of plants and insects, collagen is actually dynamically remodeled over time. The cells that make our collagen, the fibroblasts, they custom build each of our individual collagen matrix based on our patterns. Even when we have an injury or immobilization, if you've ever worn a cast when you were injured, what happens? You lose muscle, but your collagen matrix changes as well. And they do this, fibroblasts can do this because they are mechanically sensitive. I know.
What does that mean?
Well, it's a process, they use a process called mechanotransduction. This is a fancy word to say that cells convert mechanical stimuli, so all the physical forces of stretch, compression, impact, into biomechanical signals that then alter cellular behavior. Because we have to remember that the language of cells is biochemical. But our fibroblasts, our collagen matrix, they're living in the mechanical world.
Physical, yeah.
Yeah, so fibroblasts take those mechanical signals and translate them into the language of the body into chemical processes. In simpler terms, it's how the cells feel and respond to being pushed, pulled, stretched, compressed, or how they experience changes in the stiffness in the matrix around them.
This is actually something we're pretty familiar with as the concept, because of course we know that our bones and our muscles adapt to mechanical loads as well. So it's interesting to hear that the matrix of what they live inside of is also responding to how it's loaded. So I guess that means that when we go to the gym or when we go for a walk, we're not just training our muscle system, but we're also training our collagen system. Something to be known about that, though, is that the collagen process is slow. I usually talk about it as being like the sloth of your body because it's a very slow thing, which means that a little over a long period of time can actually make a really big difference. This is why even injuries can sort of creep up on us. It's like we may have a repetitive kind of use injury, which is fairly common, that we've been doing the same movement for a long, long period of time, that the collagen can actually end up getting stiffer in an unbalanced kind of way. And then eventually it shows up as pain.
Earlier, we were talking about fibrosis in an organ, right? That the fibroblasts are responsive to an inflammatory process. This is also true in all of our tissues, and fibroblasts and collagen are deeply involved in scar tissue formation.
That's true. In fact, collagen is not only the original framework of what our body is made out of, but it's also the repair. And this is why our wounds don't ever exactly match the original tissue that was there before, because it's been patched together or pulled together and rewoven together with new collagen in response to that inflammatory area or the area of tissue that has been damaged.
Absolutely. And in fact, at a really fundamental level, you can say that scar tissue is collagen. One of the important things to know about scar tissue for massage therapists is that scar tissue in that first year in particular is constantly remodeling itself.
Mm-hmm.
And the hope is that as we work on our clients' scars, that our manual input into the tissues is helping to influence the healing process of that scar.
Okay, so let's take this even more into the massage therapist story. Like, why is it so important for massage therapists to understand about collagen?
I think one of the most important things to know about the collagen matrix is that it creates the tissues we are feeling under our hands. So as we were talking about all the different tissues that are made of collagen, but that collagen also creates the textures, the densities, how tough something is. It creates the palpatory experience we're feeling under our hands.
Now, we've talked a lot about fascia, and now we're talking about collagen. Let's just put it in context for a moment. Because fascia is kind of describing, let's say it's under debate a lot. Is it a tissue? Is it a system? Like, where do we classify fascia? Because certain things that used to be specific structures were called afascia, but then there's the fascial system. We're highlighting collagen in this conversation because it's one element that is truly in the entire fascial system, but it's the fiber part. And it's really interesting when we can pull out one part of something and study it a little bit more deeply. Then when we put it back in the context of the whole, everything starts to make a lot more sense. And I think for massage therapists, one of the really important things to know is that fibroblasts are mechanically sensitive, but that sensitivity isn't an instant change, right? And this is probably why you've noticed some of your clients will come in and after they've seen you for several sessions, or maybe they've been seeing you for 6 months to a year, there seems to be a lot of change that's happened in their body. Part of that change we can attribute to the fact that there may be a reorganization to the fascial matrix itself, especially if you're doing detail work on an area that is still undergoing remodeling or change, such as an area of injury.
So are you saying, Rachelle, that the input our massaging hands are putting into our clients' tissues, sometimes the change that's happening is not us physically realigning the fibers, but we're, talking to the fibroblasts and we're informing the fibroblasts how to rearrange those fibers. And that's why it's happening over time.
That's exactly what we're saying. And truly, the listening fibroblast is really kind of a cool thing to think about because that means that you put some input and the fibroblast hears what you're saying. I say hears in quotes, and then it responds. So it's a complicated topic, but I think just talking about the overview of understanding what collagen is, where it lives, what it does, what its attributes are, and why it's an important part of the work that we do every day is a really, really nice thing to understand just a little bit better. If you'd like to know more about scar tissue formation, we are pleased to announce that we are also presenting on this topic at the ABMP Online Continuing Education Summit. This is on working with clients post-op. We talk more about scar tissue formation and take you on a visual journey of scar tissue with images from our work in the dissection lab. We hope you will enjoy this free presentation called Scar Tissue, Formation and Impact, a Visual Journey.
And if you want to know more about the collagen matrix, come join us in the dissection lab. The course we're teaching in the lab this week, Journey into the Matrix, it's a deep dive into the collagen matrix. Where it is, what it looks like, what it feels like under your hands, how it responds to movement and touch.
And for even more on the collagen matrix, keep your eyes on your inbox for the winter issue of Massage Bodywork magazine. In our Anatomy for Touch column, we introduce you to the fibroblast, the cell that makes, repairs, and remodels the matrix.
If you'd like to share your thoughts with us about this episode, please email us at info@AnatomySCAPES.com. That's all for now. I'm Nicole Trombley.
And I'm Rachelle Clauson. Thank you for listening.